In today's video, I wanted to continue my journey through the Dark Brotherhood's questline featured in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Last time, Astrid had me spy on Cicero, and through this, I learned that I was the Dark Brotherhood's listener. The Night Mother had me meet with someone named Amon Motier. After convincing Astrid to let me go for it, it turns out that he wants the guild to take out the Emperor. In preparation for this, I embarked on a contract to take care of the Emperor's cousin, Vittoria Vici. I also disposed of and framed Gaius Maro, the Penitus Oculatus' leader's son. In between those events, Nazir had me complete 3 other minor contracts on various targets. The last quest I ended with, Cicero had gone into a frenzy because Astrid mocked the Night Mother. He took off in a rage and ended up in the Dawnstar Sanctuary. Over there, I made a decision on whether or not to spare his life. This is where the story continues. Rushing across the sanctuary, I met with Festus in order to hear his plan.
Bloody brilliant.
There you are. Took your sweet time dealing with Cicero, eh? Now let's get down to business. Astrid told you about the gourmet, I hope. Quite so. But first, you'll need to learn who he is. Assuming, of course, that the gourmet actually is a he. Could be a woman, for all we know. Oh, indeed I do, indeed I do. In my, investigations, I came upon this. It's a copy of the gourmet's cookbook. Oh, but not just any copy. It's signed, you see. Seems to be a message from the gourmet to one Anton Varan. I've tracked Varan to the keep in Markarth. It would seem he's the cook. I believe so. Therefore, you are to obtain that information from Varan, who the gourmet really is and where he can be found. Oh, and when you're done with Varan, kill him. Loose ends and all that. Next, you'll have to... Are you still paying attention? As I was saying, you'll need to kill the gourmet, of course. But what's more, you'll need to get his writ of passage, so you can take his place. Oh, and if you can, hide his body. The longer it takes for anyone else to determine his real identity, the better. Now off with you.
It seems like Krex might be a bigger fan of the gourmet's cooking than he lets on, but he also knows that business is business. Exiting the sanctuary and popping open the map, I fast traveled over to Markarth. Scurrying across the city and entering the keep, in classic kitchen fashion, I witnessed Anton Varan trashing his fellow cooks. As soon as Voda left the room, I approached Anton.
Who are you? What do you want? The gourmet? Never. I don't know what led you here, but nothing will betray my trust. I'll take the secret of the gourmet's identity to my grave. The Dark Brotherhood? Now, wait a minute. Let's not get hasty. I mean, surely my friend wouldn't want me to endanger my own life, right? Look, his name is Balagog Gronolobe. He's an orc. The gourmet's an orc. He's staying at the Nightgate Inn. That's all I know. Now you'll let me go, right? Okay, all right. Wonderful. You're welcome. I'll just be on my way then.
With my next target marked, Krex put it perfectly, loose ends and all that. Varan put himself in a pretty comfortable position over by the hearth, surrounded by his helpers. I was trying to figure out the best way to eliminate him, forcing waits, letting the other cooks move around, etc. The perfect opportunity never really came, so I just went with the flow, pulled out my bow, and fired an arrow into his back. Quickly tucking myself away in the adjacent room, the other NPCs expressed their confusion, but didn't care much beyond that. Exiting the keep and popping open the map, Balagog Gronolob was at a fairly secluded inn on the eastern side of the province. Traveling to the Great Lift at Alftand and wandering a short distance southwest, I arrived at the Nightgale Inn. I saw Balagog strolling around outside and approached him for some dialogue.
Whatever it is, I'm sure I can't be of help. I'm just here on holiday. What? The Emperor? But Oh, by the gods. No, you can't do this. You can't.
Scaring him off, he darted for the inn. I caught up to the orc and performed a backstab, but I guess he made it through the doors on time and got away. Entering the tavern, Gronolob was nowhere to be seen, but the quest marker pointed downwards into the cellar. Walking to the back of the room, the gourmet was cowering behind one of the kegs, fearing for his life. Going up to him and performing yet another backstab, this one actually went through, and the famous chef was no more. Luckily for me, this counted as dragging his body to a hiding place, and just before leaving, I stole his writ of passage. Traveling back to the sanctuary, I rushed over to Festus and gave him my report.
So the prodigal murderer returns. And the gourmet? So I gathered. It seems a certain orc has disappeared, which means you not only killed the gourmet, but disposed of the body as well. Oh, you've got the writ of passage too, I see. Splendid, splendid. Ah, and word has come in from Markarth that the keep's cook has met an untimely demise. You performed your duties to the letter. I was wrong about you. I see that now. Maybe we all were. Here's your payment, and a little something else as well, from me. Consider it my way of apologizing for being so damn curmudgeonly. It's called the Night Weaver's Band. I wore this for years. I want you to have it now. It'll give your magic and sneakiness some much-needed oomph. Now you'd better get a move on and see Astrid. It's time. Time for the final stage of this grand and glorious operation.
It's been quite...
The gold is nice, and Nightweaver's Band isn't a bad reward either. It fortifies sneak skill for 10%, and destruction magic costs 10% less magicka. Not really up my character's alley, but could be useful to sell for quick gold or for the disenchant. With that, thus ends the quest, Recipe for Disaster. Now, the next few quests are going to be the climax for the guild storyline. The plot to assassinate Emperor Titus Me II is finally in motion. However, Nazir still has a bunch of minor contracts for me to go on. 7 to be exact. So I figured I'd go through those now and leave the final few epics for last.
There are indeed 3 to be exact. There's Deekus, a shipwreck scavenger, Mirandru Joe, a traveling caravaner, and Anoriath, a hunter.
I asked Nazir for more information on each target.
He's an Argonian layabout, likes to scavenge shipwrecks. My guess is he'll run if threatened, or swim if given the chance. He's an accomplished wizard, and locating him may be challenging as he travels with the caravans. The Wood Elf may run a stall in the city, but he retreats to the plains outside Whiterun to hunt. Kill him there, and no one will bear witness.
3 targets all sort of have similar ways of life. They like to seclude themselves from society. The first one I started with was Deekus, the Argonian. Deekus was located northeast of Dawnstar. From the sanctuary, it was a short run over, and I could see that he was currently at work with another shipwreck. His setup here was certainly not bad. He had recovered a lot of treasures from the nearby boat. Approaching him, I wanted to hear some dialogue.
You go find your own wreck. This one's mine. You'll have to catch me first.
No more. I yield. I yield.
Catching him wasn't really that difficult. Not unlike Anodius Papius, he did the 10-meter death run and simply circled around his camp a bunch. A couple of hits with my enchanted weapons, and Deekus was defeated. 1 contract down, 2 more to go. Looking at the map, my next target, Mirandru Joe, wasn't far off from Whiterun's Western Watch Tower. Traveling over and galloping to them via Shadowmere, I was about to make my move when a blood dragon swooped down from the sky and saved his hide. Through the power of teamwork, the caravan, my horse, and some other travelers, we defeated the beast in no time. As it would turn out, the dragon's death would act as the perfect distraction for the Khajiit. Mirandru Joe ran over in awe to the pile of bones, and I spoke with him to hear some dialogue.
And how may Mirandru Joe assist you, And why would you be looking for me, I am not sure I appreciate your presence here, friend.
While they were marveling at the remains, I set myself up for the perfect shot. Unfortunately, my raw bow wasn't powerful enough for the one-shot takedown. Charging it with a soul gem did the trick, but it seemed like no matter my method of assassination, his squad would aggro onto me and charge in for the attack. There was no bounty, but I didn't like the idea of killing NPCs that weren't my targets. After many different attempts, I found the perfect strategy. I drank a potion of True Shot, fired off a well-placed arrow, and then quickly downed a potion of invisibility. Mirandru Joe's companions were none the wiser, and I was clear to move on to my final target. As of this moment, Anoriath was staying somewhere inside the city of Whiterun. Approaching the drunken huntsman and going on in, the Bosmer was fast asleep in one of the side rooms. Wanting to hear his last words, I woke him up and had a brief conversation.
You're making me nervous. Is there something you need? Are you threatening me? Walk away, fool. It's not worth it.
My first attempt was sloppy, and I knew that it probably wasn't going to work. Attempt number 2 went better than expected though. One well-placed arrow did not do the trick, but I never received a bounty, and Anoriath just stood there holding his weapon. Finally, he lunged in for the counter, but I let off one more arrow into his chest, taking down the Bosmer for good. All 3 targets defeated, I returned to the sanctuary and reported my success to Nazir.
No arrows protruding from your skull. Can I assume Anoriath is dead then?
There is no challenge that magic...
Personally, I've always found Argonians to be incredibly unpredictable opponents, especially near water. In any event, nice work. Here's your payment. Ah! Well done, well done. Those caravanners can be an elusive bunch. Takes a fair bit of stalking to take one down, but then, that's half the fun, isn't it? Here's your payment. Well earned indeed. Ah, so the hunter came to know the fear of the hunted, Your payment, my friend. Well done.
I certainly won't complain about being 1,200 septims richer. Thus ends the quests, kill Deekus, Mirandru Joe, and Anoriath. Returning to Nazir, I asked for more contracts.
Just one right now, actually. I need you to eliminate an old woman named Agnis, a servant in Fort Greymore.
I asked for further information on this Agnis.
She's a maid, old and feeble. But with this contract, it's much more a matter of where than who. Your political affairs are your own, but any allegiance you may have in the ongoing war could very well affect your access to Fort Greymore.
At first, I was confused by what Nazir meant by my political affiliations would get in the way for this quest. I then learned that depending on my progression with the Civil War questline, the following events could be easier. As of right now though, it isn't a storyline I've embarked on with this character, so stationed at Fort Greymore was just a group of bandits and ruffians. Clearing the castle courtyard of any threats, I went on inside of the keep and continued my rampage. Agnis, an older woman who I suppose comes with the fort, wasn't hostile towards me and just wanted to be left alone to clean. I spoke with her in order to hear some dialogue.
Sleep? I can't sleep now. There's too much to be done. And what's this void you're rambling on about?
A couple of good slashes with my blade and she was down for the count. A simple enough kill, with really only the real difficulty being the bandit resistance, something that could be taken away with another questline's progression. Returning to Nazir, I reported my success.
Don't worry, my friend. I'll spare you the facetious quip about killing a defenseless old woman. Infiltrating an occupied military fort and making it out in one piece is nothing to joke about. Well done. Your payment for services rendered.
I then asked him about any further contracts.
Well, yes, 2 of them. But you're reaching the end of what I have available. Your targets are a dark elf wizard named Maluril in the dwarven ruin of Mazinchaleft, and Helvard, the housecarl of Falkreath. Kill these 2, and I'll have one last contract to give you. I'm just finalizing some details now.
I asked for more info on both targets.
He's the housecarl of Falkreath. You know what that means? He's the bodyguard to the Jarl himself, so be careful. He's dangerous, very dangerous. A rogue dark elf mage doing research into dwarven artifacts should be both respected and feared. Just not by you.
Wanting to start with Maluril, I set my sights on the dwarven ruins of Mazinchaleft. Traveling to Ustengrav and riding a short distance east, I quickly came across the site's exterior. It was teeming with bandits, so Shadowmere and I got to work and slew every NPC in the area. Once ready, I went on inside of Mazinchaleft and the fun continued. As far as stealth takedowns go, my performance was pretty bad. I was able to get a sneak attack off for almost every encounter, but it wasn't enough to kill them instantly, and it was usually followed by a group fight. The quest was really reminiscent of Elaine Dufont's contract, infiltrating a Dwemer ruin, taking out bandits, all just to reach one man. Traversing the dungeon, battling through the ranks, I soon landed on Maluril's quarters. Getting close to him, he wasn't hostile, so I wanted to hear what he had to say.
By the gods, what are you doing here? Yes, quite. But if that power could be harnessed, controlled, the possibilities would be... But who exactly are you? And why are you in here? I think it best you leave Mazinchaleft. These ruins can be quite... dangerous.
Even after our little chat, the Dunmer was still unsuspecting. Taking out my battle axe, I pulled it back and dropped the weapon straight down on his head, killing him instantly. It was actually a pretty satisfying elimination. With Maluril defeated, I left Mazinchaleft and traveled over to Falkreath, a little closer to home. The Jarl's longhouse was easily accessible from the streets, and due to it being nighttime, my job was made a lot easier. Helvard, the Jarl's housecarl, was asleep in one of the side rooms. It would have been simple to just kill him right then and there, but I wanted to hear his last words.
Yes, what is it? We're all very busy here. And why would I... Oh! Guards! Guards, I need assistance!
At first, I was worried that he was going to alert everybody in the longhouse. I guess his pleas for help weren't enough, or the others just didn't care, because nobody came, nor did I receive a bounty. Helvard didn't put up a good fight, and I brutally executed him. Our commotion managed to bring the Jarl over, however, he didn't seem to care that his housecarl was now headless. With both contracts completed, I returned to the sanctuary and reported my success to Nazir.
Back from your little vacation in Falkreath. So did you enjoy the sights, sample the food, kill the housecarl? I hope the elf didn't give you too much trouble. I once got set on fire by a sorcerer. Nasty business, that. But I digress. Here's your payment. Well, that's sure to throw a branch into Falkreath's well-oiled political machine. Here's your payment. Well earned as always.
At this point, there's only one simple contract quest remaining. Thus ends the quests, kill Maluril and Helvard. Returning to Nazir, I asked him for more work.
Yes. Yes, I believe you are. Very well then. You need to find and kill Safia, the captain of the pirate ship Red Wave. The ship travels the northern coast and sometimes isn't even in Skyrim at all, so you'll have to be patient. Good luck.
I asked for further information on Safia.
Ah yes, the pirate captain. A ruthless she-devil by all accounts. Deadly with a blade, and let's not forget her crew. Loyal and bloodthirsty, the lot of them. This is my final contract, and certainly the most challenging. Be careful with this one, my friend.
Here I was, the final spare contract before setting off and assassinating Emperor Titus Mede II. Popping open the map and fast traveling over to Catelys Farm, there was a dragon flying around and harassing the locals. I thought it was the perfect opportunity to sneak aboard the Red Wave. I technically wasn't wrong, but gaining access onto the ship was simpler than I thought. None of the sailors inside seemed to mind that I was there. Sure, they said that I wasn't supposed to be, but nobody did anything about it. So, taking advantage and wandering through the ship, I was able to locate Safia at the back, whom was also not hostile. As per usual, I spoke with her to hear her last words.
Let me guess. You have some business to discuss. Sithis? Let me guess. In the void. By the gods, you Dark Brotherhood are a predictable lot, aren't you? Okay, here's how this works. You try to assassinate me and I kill you. Horribly. I have done this dance before, you know.
She rises out of her seat and we both arm ourselves. I thought for sure the rest of the crew was going to come to her aid, but the whole time it was just her and I. She hit pretty hard and had a decent amount of health. Luckily, my shock enchantments were doing a number to her. Without them, this battle might have gone differently. Soon enough, Safia was dead, nobody on the boat cared, and I was home free. Returning to Nazir one last time, I reported my success.
By Sithis, now I am truly impressed. To kill a pirate captain on our own ship no less, simply masterful. You've not only earned your payment, but my respect as well. And believe me, friend, that does not come easily. I'm afraid that concludes our business. You have exhausted all available additional contracts. But I'm sure you've got plenty to keep you busy right about now,
With all of these simple contracts completed, I can now resume my work and assassinate the Emperor. Thus ends the quest, kill Safia. With no more delays, I rushed over to Astrid and asked to hear the plan.
So it's done. You've killed the gourmet. And now, Titus Mede II is as good as dead. Oh, yes. And I've decided you will have the honor. Oh, I have the utmost faith in your success, believe me. So let's begin. Go now to Castle Dower in Solitude. Present the gourmet's writ of passage to the officer in charge, Commander Marrow. I'm sure you remember him. You'll gain unrestricted access to the kitchens, and then the Emperor. You're posing as a chef, so you'll be able to poison his meal rather easily. Here, take this. It's called Jarren root. All it takes is one taste, and the effects are quite immediate. The Emperor will be serving Sithis before he even knows he's dead. Once Mede has been killed, escape through the upper door and across the bridge. I've arranged for it to be unguarded once the alarm is sounded. Now go, my friend. Go and fulfill your destiny as listener.
Excited for what's to come, I left the sanctuary and fast traveled to Solitude. Running over to the keep, I could hear the Penitus Oculatus agents complaining about the rest of the Legion. They called them lazy and useless, and they were worried that they couldn't protect the Emperor. And you know what? They were right. Strolling over to Morrow, I had a little chat with him.
Stop right there. The tower is off limits until further notice. What's this now? An order of His Eminence, possessor of these papers. The Gourmet. By Azra. The Gourmet! I'm sorry, I didn't realize. We had no idea who to expect. You understand. You're not dressed as I would have suspected. But please, don't let me keep you. Proceed to the kitchen straight away. Gianna, the castle chef, has been eagerly awaiting your arrival.
Azura is right. This is going to be good. He didn't seem like a man who just lost his quote-unquote treacherous son, but I suppose everybody grieves differently. Entering the Emperor's Tower, I meandered through the halls and spotted Gianna. Pulling my act together, it was finally go time.
On another delivery. I told you people our stocks are fine. Now put whatever you have over there, then get out. The Gourmet? Oh, finally. When I heard the Gourmet was being brought in to cook for the Emperor, I could hardly believe it. It's just... You're a high elf? Oh, I never would have guessed it. So many of your recipes are clearly aimed at the common folk. It just seems... Oh, well, actually, you're not. Wearing a chef's hat, I mean. There's one right over there on the shelf. You can't very well cook without it.
Fair enough. Wouldn't want to spoil the dinner with some hairs in it. Or my hairs, at least. Choosing a hat, I vaguely remembered that I could absolutely botch the upcoming dish. So of course, that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, just look at you. Absolutely brilliant. Now you're just as I imagined. Oh, yes, but of course. The Emperor has requested your signature dish, the potage le magnifique. I've taken the liberty of getting it started. But the cookbook only says so much, and everyone makes the potage differently. I would be honored if we could make it the Gourmet's special way. The base broth is already boiled. We can get started right now. So, which ingredient should I add next? Ooh, how decadent. I never would have guessed it. What next? Vampire dust? Seriously? Yes, I guess I can see how that would add a more earthy texture. And oddly enough, we do have some on hand. All right, what next then? A giant's toe? You're sure about that? Of course, I'm sorry. One giant's toe, there. What next? A septum? As in a gold coin? Really? Ah, I see now. That would give the potage le magnifique a slightly metallic but delicious aftertaste. Ha! Simply brilliant. I have to say, the stew seems done. Add anything else and we may dilute the distinct flavors. So, is that it? Oh? What is this? Some kind of herb? Are you sure? The potage tastes perfect as it is. Any other ingredient might... I'm sorry. Of course, it's your most famous recipe after all. All right then, your secret ingredient's been added. And if I may say so, it has been an honor getting a chance to prepare a meal with, well, the best chef in the entire Empire. I'll carry the stew pot and lead the way up to the dining room. I'm sure the Emperor and his guests are dying to meet you.
With my signature chef's kiss dish in hand, I followed Gianna through the castle. This was it, the big moment, assassinating Emperor Titus Mede II. The Brotherhood would go down in history for this one, right beside the execution of Pelagius. As we neared the dining hall, I could hear the Emperor speaking with some of the noblemen and women. As we stopped outside the door, Gianna instructed me on what to do.
Here we are. Gods, I'm nervous. We'll go in just a moment. Please, I'll serve. You just stand there and be amazing.
Yes, an unfortunate turn of events that. But an isolated incident. And I have been assured that the fault was with the man's son alone. Truth is, we are in no danger whatsoever. Killing an emperor can be useful, but befriending one, now that's beneficial, as I'm sure you'd all agree. Aha! Here we are, honored guests. I present to you the gourmet. Ah, the potage le magnifique. So delicious. My friends, as emperor, I of course reserve the right of first taste.
Keep it together, Gianna.
how marvelous.
Keep it together.
Just delicious.
The gourmet.
It is everything
This
I
is
had
such
hoped
an
it would
honor.
be. I think something's wrong.
The missus and I love your strawberry tarts. Time to end it. The gourmet and the chef have...
It worked. Titus Mead was dead, and everything delved into chaos. Making my escape out onto the bridge, I was practically home free. I had begun running to the tower on the other side, but was promptly stopped.
That man was, by far, the most insufferable decoy the Emperor has ever employed. I'm glad he's dead. But I'm even happier that you killed him. You, an assassin for the Dark Brotherhood, have just made an attempt on the Emperor's life. Would have succeeded had it been the real man. Surprised? So was I when a member of your family came to me with a plan. We worked out a deal, you see. An exchange. I get you, and the Dark Brotherhood gets to continue its existence. But you know what? I've changed my mind. How about this? I kill you, and butcher each and every one of your miserable little friends. Your sanctuary's being put to the sword right now. That's what I think of this deal. You killed my son. All of you. And now you'll pay the price. Kill him. And make sure there's nothing left to bury. Never should have come.
Of course, it all seemed too easy. Everything was going too well. There had to be a twist in there somewhere. Who could this traitor have been, and why would they have done such a thing? Was it Cicero? Maybe Festus, a Cicero sympathizer? Someone else who I'd least expect? The possibilities are endless. Once the attacking agents were taken care of, I fled the city and jumped into the harbor. Since the guards were pursuing me, I had to swim a good distance away and still continue with my escape. Finally, I was far enough to where the game would let me fast travel again. Oddly enough, the sanctuary wasn't a location I could go to though, so I went to Falkreath and rode Shadowmere over. On the road, just before the sanctuary, barrels of oil were spilt all over the place, and the Penitus Oculatus agents had already begun their rampage. Charging in, Shadowmere and I worked our way through their ranks. There was a fair bit of soldiers out here, so I could only imagine the amount that were actually inside. Once all of them were defeated, I rushed over to the sanctuary and readied myself for what lay ahead. With that, thus ends the quest to kill an empire. Pulling out my blades, I approached the door and went on inside. Right away, I could see dead bodies, hear unfamiliar voices, and the air was filled with smoke. In the entranceway, my fight continued as I ran into more Oculatus agents. Descending to the common area, I could see a werewolf, Arnbjorn, fighting for his life against the Imperials, but he was no match. As soon as they struck him down, their attention turned to me, and our weapons clashed in the smoky pits. They set the whole sanctuary ablaze, so even if the Brotherhood survived this, they would no longer have a base to call home. Due to the rubble and flames, there was really only one pathway I could go down. This trek led me across the bodies of more of my fallen comrades like Gabriella and Liz. Stepping into the dining hall, I heard Nazir's voice up on the landing, and my journal objective changed. I rushed over and helped him kill his attacker, Arcturus, likely the man in charge of this siege.
So you are alive. I was starting to wonder. Considering most of us are now dead, I assumed as much. And before you ask, no, I don't think it was you. Well, maybe I did. But you saving my sorry hide just now sort of erased any doubts. So, thanks. I've got that right. Only a matter of time before we're roasted alive. Come on.
Listener, I am your only salvation. Come, embrace me.
Nazir and I legged it through the sanctuary's corridors and ended up in the room with the Night Mother. The way out was blocked, the fire was getting stronger, and the smoke was getting thicker. I felt kind of bad for leaving Nazir behind like this, but I gave him the good old wave goodbye and stepped into the Night Mother's coffin.
I'm going as fast as I can, you stupid she-devil. I don't see you helping.
I'm not exactly built for manual labor. Now come on, you've almost got it.
One more pull. There.
Can you get it open?
I think so. Just hold on a moment.
You must speak with Astrid. Here in the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down. It's all right. You've been through a lot. Maybe you should just sit down for a bit. She's here? By Sithis, I thought we'd lost her. Let's go!
Stepping out of the tomb, the chaos and destruction seems to have concluded, but the base is nothing more than a ruin. All of the corpses are charred, making it impossible to differentiate between friend and foe. All of the tunnels and pathways are blocked off, barring the one leading back outside. It seems like the only survivors are myself, Nazir, Babette, and apparently Astrid. Running along to the front area and into the side room, the sight was ghastly. Astrid was burnt to a crisp, her skin blistered and peeled. She was surrounded by candles and barely alive. The whole scene reminded me of a core Dark Brotherhood ceremony.
Alive! You're alive! Thanks, Sithis. Shh. Please. There is much I have to say, and not much time. I'm sorry. So very sorry. The Penitus Oculatus. Marrow. He said that by giving you to them, he would leave the Dark Brotherhood alone. Forever. Oh, my Sithis, I was such a fool. All of this, it's all my fault. You are the best of us, and I nearly killed you, as I've killed everyone else. Yes, I set you up. I wanted you dead. I betrayed you, the Night Mother, and everything I hold dear. And now Marrow has betrayed me. I just wanted things to stay the way they were. Before Cicero, before the Night Mother, before you. I thought I could save us. I was wrong, but you're alive. So there's still a chance. A chance to start over. Rebuild. That's why I did this. Don't you see? I prayed to the Night Mother. I am the Black Sacrament. I'm saying you were right. The Night Mother was right. The old ways, they guided the Dark Brotherhood for centuries. I was a fool to oppose them. And to prove my sincerity, I have prayed for a contract. You lead this family now. I give you the Blade of Woe, so that you can see it through. You must kill me.
Taking the Blade of Woe, it was a unique enchanted dagger that absorbed 10 points of health per strike. Equipping it, I gave her one good slash, and that was good enough to do the trick. The ultimate betrayal by Astrid. She almost eradicated the Dark Brotherhood, all in an attempt to maintain her leadership role of the Sanctuary. Once the deed was done, I returned to the Night Mother.
Astrid is dead. It is as it should be. May she find redemption in the void. But while you live, the Dark Brotherhood lives. We must fulfill our contract. Emperor Titus Mede II must be eliminated. Speak with Armand Mortier at the Bannered Mare in Whiterun. He will know the true Emperor's location. But first, inform Nazir of your plans, for you are the listener, and must bind this family together.
Interestingly, even though we just about lost everything, the Night Mother is still insistent that I meet with Mortier. With that, thus ends the quest, Death Incarnate. Before setting off for the Bannered Mare, I spoke with Nazir.
By Sithis, what a mess. I guess this is the end. What? Well, what did she say? Armand Mortier? But that would mean... You mean there's still a chance? But how? Our plan has gone to ruin. Everyone is dead. The family... All right then. Go. Go, my listener. Find out what that slimy bastard Mortier has to say. Then send the Emperor to Sithis. But when you're done, there's no use returning here, is there? I was thinking, the Dawnstar Sanctuary. We could make a proper home there. Listen, when you're finished with this Emperor business, meet Babette and me there. I'll find some way to move the Night Mother. Don't worry. Now go. And come back with a barrel full of gold, huh?
For all I knew, Armand, the original facilitator of this whole plan, could have been in on the betrayal. Perhaps I'm walking into another trap, and Commander Morrow himself will be waiting for me on the inside. With nothing else to do though but see for myself, I arrived at the inn, walked to the back room, and spoke with the Imperial.
What is it? I said I didn't wish to be disturbed. By the gods, you're alive! But I'd heard your sanctuary. Please, you mustn't think I had anything to do with that. I wanted the Emperor dead. The true Emperor. I still do. It was Morrow. You mean after all that's transpired, the Dark Brotherhood will still honor the contract? Why, this is astounding news! Wonderful news! The Emperor is still in Skyrim, but not for long. He's on board his ship, the Kataraya, moored offshore in the Solitude Inlet. But you must hurry. If you can get on board that ship, kill Titus Mede II, as contracted, I will reveal the location of the dead drop that holds your payment.
I asked Mortier some follow-up questions.
Yes, I can imagine you'd want to settle that score. Last I heard, he was at the Solitude docks conducting the Emperor's departure. Yes, I can imagine you'd want to settle that score. Last I heard, he was at the Solitude docks conducting the Emperor's departure. Surely you're joking. This is the true Emperor, not some half-septim lookalike. He'll be surrounded by elite bodyguards, I'm sure. You'll have your work cut out for you. Still, everyone assumes the Dark Brotherhood has been completely destroyed. They may be a bit more lax than usual. Well, I don't know. It's in the Solitude Inlet. That's the channel just north of the docks. I suppose you should go to the docks and swim?
Well, for now, it seems like Amon's intentions are pure, if that's even the proper way to put it. He still wants the Emperor dead, and what better way to prove to Tamriel that the Brotherhood is alive and well? Accompanying Titus Meade's assassination is the death of Commander Morrow, which I was more than happy to facilitate. Traveling to the East Empire Company's warehouse, the leader of the Penitus Oculatus was standing guard on the docks just in front of the Red Wave. I approached the Imperial and let him know that I was here for him.
By the gods. You! But it can't be. You're dead. You!
He took out his greatsword and began swinging it around. Shadowmere charged over to help me deal with him, and together we disposed of Morrow quickly. For a commander, he certainly wasn't tricky to handle, and none of his nearby allies even came to his aid. With time being of the essence, I galloped over to the Kataraya and swam out to the boat. Locating the anchor's chain, I was able to climb through a hole and sneak onto the ship. A majority of the enemies I faced here were sailors. They weren't exactly skilled fighters, and most made the choice to run and hide when they spotted me. Here and there, I'd run into the odd Penitus Oculatus agent. Of course, they're trained warriors, so they were a little trickier to face, but when I took them by surprise, they weren't any issue. Eventually, I ran into Captain Avidius, the toughest NPC thus far on the Kataraya. He was the only one, again so far, that put up a decent fight. Of course, that would change when I made my ascension to the deck. Here, there was nowhere for me to hide, and my presence was immediately made public. There were quite a few enemies to take on, and they swarmed me with their swords, spells, bows, and arrows. Finally, I killed the last one, and I was clear to search for something special. An awesome viewer informed me of Windshear, the enchanted scimitar. After looking around for a bit, I found it lodged into the bowsprit of the ship. This was a blade I didn't even know existed, and boy am I thrilled to have found out about it. It has the chance of knocking down an enemy by bashing them. Bashing isn't really an attack style I've messed around with much, so it was neat to get to exploit it with this weapon. When the enchantment worked its magic, it was perfect. My opponent was temporarily paralyzed, and I was free to hack away at them. Windshear was a beautiful sword, and I was really excited to have it in my arsenal. Soon enough, all of the enemies aboard the Kataraya were dead, and my pockets were full of loot. It was finally time to confront the Emperor. I approached Titus Meade II's chambers and went on in.
And once more I proved Commander Morrow the fool. I told him, you can't stop the Dark Brotherhood. Never could. Come now, don't be shy. You haven't come this far just to stand there gawking. But of course, you and I have a date with destiny, but so it is with assassins and emperors, Yes, I must die, and you must deliver the blow. It is simply the way it is. But I wonder, would you suffer an old man a few more words before the deed is done? Well, I thank you for your courtesy. You will kill me, and I've accepted that fate, but regardless of your path through life, I sense in you a certain ambition. So, I ask of you a favor. An old man's dying wish. While there are many who'd see me dead, there is one who set the machine in motion. This person, whomever he or she may be, must be punished for their treachery. Once you've been rewarded for my assassination, I want you to kill the very person who ordered it. Would you do me this kindness? Thank you. Now, on to the business at hand, I suppose,
I suppose the kill is going to be easier than I thought. Titus Meade seems at peace with his destiny and is accepting of his fate. It reminds me a lot of a certain emperor from the last game. Titus's last request is to Uno reverse Amon Motier, something I could certainly see myself doing. Before striking him down, I continued to fill my pockets and explore what was left of the Kataraya. Apart from gems, gold, and robes, there wasn't anything super exciting. So, getting down to business, I went up behind the Emperor and lodged my blade into his back. Sort of. Either way, he was dead, and the Dark Brotherhood's legacy was forever cemented. Exiting the Kataraya, I popped open the map and fast-traveled over to Whiterun. Entering the Bannered Mare and approaching Motier, I informed him of the good news.
Aha! You're back. I know! I received the news not moments ago. Ha ha! This is glorious! My friend, you may not realize it, but you have served the Empire, indeed all of Tamriel, in ways you cannot possibly imagine. Ah, but you care little for politics, am I right? You want money, and money you shall have. Your payment waits for you at a dead drop. It is inside an urn, in the very chamber where we first met, in Vollenrud. Now please, go. Collect your money, and let us never look upon one another again. Our business, thank the gods, is concluded.
Before setting off for my reward, I honored Titus's last request and struck down Amand. This felt fair, as now neither man could reap the reward for the other's assassination, and as for me, I could reap the rewards for both. Traveling to Vollenrud and entering the crypt, I descended to the chamber where I first met with Amand, and sitting in the middle was a giant urn. Looking inside, there was a whopping 20,000 septims for the taking. This amount was life-changing for my character and could fund the expenses for many more of my future travels. Gold in hand, smile on my face, I fast-traveled to the Dawnstar Sanctuary. It was still shabby and needed a lot of upkeep, but Nazir did a good job at making some minor repairs. Approaching the Red Guard, I informed him of the guild's glory.
Well, what word of the Emperor? Truly? Could you have brought us more wondrous news? Recent events notwithstanding, this is a happy day for us, my friend. Despite your misfortunes, you stayed true to the Dark Brotherhood. You've saved us all, and for this, you have my eternal thanks. Now, of course, I must ask, killing the Emperor, how much did Motier pay for such a thing?
Unsure of whether or not he was going to ask for a cut, I chose to be selfish and only told him 10,000 drakes.
Ha! Clearly we should have killed that old bastard years ago. Now, might I offer some advice? You should go to Riften and find Delvin Mallory. I believe Astrid had you visit him once before. Mallory is an expert obtainer of goods. We can use the money to repair and refit the sanctuary. Make a true home for us, huh? You do that, and I'll see what I can do about recruiting some new additions to our family.
With that, thus ends the quest, Hail Sithis. Technically, all of the glamorous quests are now completed. However, there are a few smaller tasks left to deal with.
It is done. Emperor Titus Mede II lies dead, and the Dark Brotherhood yet lives. But our work is just beginning. Approach me, listener, and hear my words.
Before heading off to the Ragged Flagon and dealing with Delvin Mallory, I approached the Night Mother and heard what she had to say.
Yet another child has prayed to their mother. Speak with the unemployed laborer at the Frostbrute Inn in Rorikstead. Accept his gold, then kill the target. So begins a contract, bound in blood.
Exiting the sanctuary, I ran into a familiar face.
Listener! Oh yes, it is Cicero. You were a fool to spare me. What, did you think I would be grateful? Cicero should be listener, not you. Now you will die. adventure? Oh, listener, you should see the look on your face. Oh, Cicero has returned, not to kill the kind listener, but to serve until one of us dies horribly in service to our mother. Best friends forever. In the meantime, I'll make myself at home in the sanctuary. I'm sure Mother needs tending.
So, it would seem that Cicero survived his battle with Arnbjorn and has since made his return. Bold of him to come back here, however, after recent events and Astrid's betrayal, I'd say he's welcomed back with open arms. I wonder if he was at Falkreath Sanctuary when it was attacked, if he would have perished in the siege. However, he is a really resourceful character, so my money's on no. In any case, this Dark Brotherhood Forever quest is infinite. It's something that I can really appreciate, and is one of the better ways I've seen Bethesda wrap up a faction's questline. Although the subject matter itself isn't infinite, there are always new minor contracts to embark on and extra gold to be earned. In this case, I met with an unemployed laborer in Rorgstead. He paid me 600 gold and asked me to kill a cold-hearted gravedigger in Windhelm. Fast traveling to the snowy city and entering the Hall of the Dead, my target was isolated and vulnerable. She didn't offer any interesting dialogue, and taking her out was no problem at all. No witnesses, no bounty. As soon as the kill was completed, the quest was marked as finished and then restarted. Again, an infinite, radiant quest that offers the player an easy opportunity to make gold. With that, thus ends the quest, or maybe not, the Dark Brotherhood Forever. The next matter of business is speaking with Delvin Mallory at the Ragged Flagon. Traveling to Riften and descending to the Ratway, I located the Breton and we had a little chat.
Come back later, and I may have some work for you. The Dawn Star Sanctuary. Is that where you lot are holding up? Tell you what, it'll cost you. A lot. But I can help you out. What exactly are we talking about here?
This part of the quest really reminds me of the player home DLCs that we saw in Oblivion, paying a large sum of gold for some rather lackluster additions. Of course, some of them are fairly useful depending on your playstyle. Looking at each upgrade, the game's slick, and in order to buy everything, it'll run me a tab of 19,000 gold. Almost all of the reward money I got for killing the Emperor. If I wasn't such a completionist, I would have quickly walked back the way I came in. Some examples of upgrades that I think are just a money grab are the separate entrance to the Sanctuary, which costs 5,000 gold. To me, that's pretty outrageous. Then there's 1,000 gold for banners, a simple cosmetic addition. Although the master bedroom for 3,000 septums is okay, but the torture chamber for 5,000 is pretty worth it in my opinion, as you'll soon see why. In any case, once all of the upgrades were purchased and Delvin was spoken to once more, he told me that there's nothing left he can offer me. With that, thus ends the quest, where you hang your enemy's head. This next quest is rather subtle and is only available after purchasing the torture chamber. Returning to the Sanctuary, I got a better look at what my 19,000 gold investment went towards. The place was tidier, the amenities were nice, and it felt more like a Dark Brotherhood base as opposed to temporary housing. In the master bedroom, or at least what I assumed were the primary chambers, there were enchanted gloves on a stone altar. The Tumblerbane gloves had the ability of fortify lockpicking for 20%. The next area I wanted to look in was the torture chamber. Shackled to the walls, beaten, battered, and left in their underwear were 4 victims. For the first interaction, none of them offered any interesting dialogue. I would have thought this was just a sick and twisted edition meant for players to test new weapons, poisons, spells, etc. without any penalties. Then I learned that by pestering them a couple of times, each of the 4 victims reveals a location of hidden treasure that they had stashed away. Once all of the information has been gathered, each treasure hunt will be available under the Miscellaneous Quests tab. All of them are relatively easy to get to, as they're located by a major city. There's one beside Windhelm, another to the southwest of Whiterun, the third is to the northwest of Riften, and the last is southeast of Solitude. In total, I ended up snagging about 6,200 septums. That puts me at a profit for the torture chamber. After that, the victims no longer serve a purpose, and like mentioned before, could make for great test subjects when it comes to trying out poisons, weapons, and spells. With that, thus ends the quest, Take the Hidden Treasure. Now we move on to the final mission for this video. Remember way back when Gabriella gave me a bonus for killing Gaius Maro in a major city? She gifted me some sort of token that was to be given to a seer, Olava the Feeble. I found Olava outside in the streets of Whiterun and spoke with her.
Maybe some other time I'll reveal your destiny, Tea leaves, palm reading, crystal scrying. Ooh, maybe trepanning. Token, you say? Let me see. Oh, goodness me. You're a friend of Gabriella's, then. Well, I guess we both know why you're here. Well, yes, I surely can. It's not something I do lightly, mind you, and it's not as specific as you might want, but yes, I will do this for you. Please, relax. Free your mind. Yes, that's it. There's a cave. No, not a cave. A home. A place you feel secure. You will find safety there. Sanctuary. I see snow, lit by the star of dawn, and you are not alone. There are others. A child of night. A stalker of the sands. Oh, but before you are family. There will be blood. Such blood. Wait, there's something else. A potential for adventure and wealth. It is a ruin, ripe for the plunder. Deepwood Redoubt, far to the northwest. Through there is Hag's End, the last resting place of an assassin of old. A dark brother who bequeaths his ancient earthly possessions to you. No, that is all. Now, please. I find myself very weary all of a sudden.
Admittedly, I embarked on this part of the quest before the gourmet was even assassinated. So obviously, she's referring to the Dawnstar Sanctuary becoming the Brotherhood's new base. Babette and Nazir are the only ones left of the original family, as everybody else was massacred by the Oculatus and betrayed by Astrid. Looking at the map, Deepwood Redoubt is in the northwestern corner of the province. Arriving, the main and constant opposing threat are the Forsworn. They, however, were the least of my troubles. The inner sanctum of the dungeon held various traps and obstacles that needed to be worked around. Once the first portion of the dungeon was completed, I was brought back outdoors to the next area, Deepwood Vale. The Vale had an entire Forsworn encampment. There were plenty of ground soldiers here, fighting back and attempting to rid the space of its invader, aka me. Once the small army was disposed of, I moved on to what was technically the second last, but for me, the last part of this expedition, Hag's End. Hag's End contains a coven of witches. I expected them all to be hag-ravens, but luckily only one of them was. That singular hag-raven though was incredibly powerful, at least by my standards. After we tussled for a bit, she teleported away and I continued to move through the dungeon. Every couple of rooms over, I'd spot the hag and our fight would continue. In certain cases, there would be lesser witches in the area that would aid her, which of course made my time a lot trickier. The cycle continued a few more times until I got to a room with a word of power. It was for the slow time shout and through one more set of doors, and I was brought out to the peak of Deepwood Vale. Here, it was supposed to be the final showdown between the Hagraven and I. She summoned 2 frost trolls to come help her in the fight though, and that's when I told myself I'd come back another day. As for the assassin of old, it turns out that he was a bit further back in the dungeon. There's a small nook with a false wall that's lowered by a lever. On the other side is a well-preserved corpse of a Dark Brotherhood guildmate. The catch is that his garb was the ancient version of the shrouded armor that the guild wears today. Apparently, the faction was doing a lot better for itself back in the day because the enchantments were much better. The cowl allows for 35% more damage with bows. The armor allows for 100% poison resistance. The boots offer the same effect as the newer editions, and the gloves offer double the sneak attack damage with one-handed weapons. These certainly would have been a welcome addition while I was embarking on the questline, but better late than never. With the new fit in my inventory, thus concludes my business with the Dark Brotherhood, and that wraps up the guild's questline in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Where to begin? I loved this questline. The Dark Brotherhood was my favorite faction in Oblivion, and it's likely going to be my favorite faction in Skyrim. I've got to play through the other ones first in order to make that call, as it's been such a long time, but I'm pretty confident in my judgment. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot that I disliked. It's barely much at all, but I'll start with those, then move on to what I liked, and then finish with my overall thoughts. The only thing that comes to mind for potential dislikes are these simpler contracts, or simply put, Nazir's quests. I didn't have a problem with their structure necessarily, but more so the way in which I found out about them and their lack of creativity. Important to note is that it's just my opinion, you're entitled to your own, and more than welcome to let me know how you felt about everything down in the comments. For the first few quests, Astrid specifically directed me to Nazir for work. This was kill Narfi all the way up until kill Hearn. After that, nobody told me to go and speak with him again, and I was solely focused on the Emperor's plot. Had I known that he had more work to offer me, I probably would have done it at a better time instead of breaking up the climax of the questline like that. It's probably more of a me issue than anything anyways, and it's very minor, but I guess it would have been nice to know that there were extra contracts available whenever I wanted them. Now, the more important matter is that I felt like they were lacking in fun. They felt very mechanical and straight to the point. A lot of them didn't have that spark of creativity that I feel like we see in Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood minor contracts. The Lurbook, Hearn, Helvard, and Mirandu Joe contracts were interesting, but the rest felt a little lackluster to me. I suppose I wish some of them had some sort of flair and flashiness to them, like Morning Never Comes had. Funny enough, the Elaine Dufont kill was less interesting to me than the extra Nilsine Shattershield favor, but I digress. I guess it was nice to hear from Uiri, her side of things, and her reasoning for wanting these people dead. Maybe if we got that sort of treatment with a couple of the simpler contracts, my attention would have fully been captured. There seemed to be this spectrum of not a lot of information given, go and kill this person, to here's everything you need to know and more, plus a bonus on the side if you do something specific for me. Maybe I would have liked to have seen more middle ground for some of them, or perhaps more bonuses for the contract quests. Maybe if Lurbook was killed while he was performing, there would be extra gold in it for me. Perhaps if Hearn was killed but Hurt was left alive, I'd get a neat enchanted ring. Those are the sort of above and beyond things I would have liked to have seen. Now, let's talk about what I liked, and there's a lot. For starters, the initiation into the faction, in my eyes, was really well done. It was different enough from Oblivion's and not as predictable. I really appreciated how Bethesda let the player choose their path of good and evil, eradicate the Brotherhood, or embark on this dark, sinister journey. This works perfectly for those role-playing characters who morally lean one way or the other. Next, the whole subplot of the old ways versus the new ones is a detail I've never noticed or paid attention to until playing through the questline this time around. I knew the surface of it, Astra didn't want to give up her power and Cicero wanted things to be more traditional, but I never cared to look at the full story. How the Brotherhood was currently functioning, the chain of command, the means of obtaining contracts, why they never showed up to the Aretino residence, etc. Then you have Cicero, his journey as well as what he's seen and been through. He knows firsthand that working the streets and networking for contracts is nowhere near as efficient and promising as listening for the Black Sacrament is. He's seen the guild fall apart and knows that if the Falkreath Sanctuary only just followed the traditional values, the faction could easily be returned to its former glory. When the bigger picture is looked at, it's all really neat and well developed. On a similar topic, there's of course Cicero's journals. I've never bothered to read them up until this playthrough, and what a shame that is, because these might single-handedly offer the most Dark Brotherhood themed lore that we get in the entire game. We hear about the Shadenhall Sanctuary, aka our old home in Oblivion. We hear about the fall of the Bruma Sanctuary, which is the first we even hear of said base. We learn about the current climate of Cyrodiil cities, the very same streets that we walked on as the hero of Kvatch 200 in-game years ago. Bravil falls to warring skooma-dealing factions, the listener is killed, and the Night Mother is dragged to Shadenhall. Shadenhall soon becomes a war zone itself, and Cicero bides his time before coming to Skyrim. As a guy who loves to hear about the in-game lore, especially when it deals with things I've been involved in, this was a dream come true. Of course, then you have the main plot itself, to kill the Emperor. I can't think of a better final boss to have to take out. Emperor Titus Mede II. The build-up to get there was great, killing his cousin at her wedding, assassinating the commander's son, finding and disposing of the gourmet. Then you have the decoy, the twist of events, everybody back home being put to the sword. To me, it was just the perfect string of plot lines. My attention was wholeheartedly captured, and I enjoyed every moment of it. Amon Motier, the guy in charge of it all, likely had bad intentions for wanting Titus killed. It was probably to put someone he had better connections with up on the throne, or maybe even himself up there, who knows. However, there's a really great theory that Amon was doing this not for selfish reasons, but for the good of the Empire. Putting a young, daring, and fresh emperor on the throne has the potential to turn the tides of the Cold War with the Thalmor and maybe even influence Skyrim's own civil war. The theory goes further and suggests that Titus Mede II was in on the plot too, as the empire he inherited and had to look after was frozen at a low point. His hands were tied with the White Gold Concordat, and his death could bring a revolution to this unfair treaty. That's why he acts so nonchalant when the faction comes for him and accepts his fate. Although, like I once said, that seems to be a common trait amongst emperors. The issue with Titus's involvement is why would he request the player to kill Amon Motier afterwards if Mede was the true facilitator of this whole thing? Maybe he knew Motier would be dumb enough to actually spearhead the plot and therefore couldn't be trusted to remain on the Elder Council any longer. Moving along, I thought the characters in the family were pretty interesting, and a lot of them had their own unique personalities, so that's always a plus for me. Astrid had depth, Cicero was unpredictable, Festus was moody, Babette was terrifying, and Arnbjorn was angry. I mentioned it while I was playing through the Dark Brotherhood Forever, but I really liked the direction they went with for the endgame Radiant quests. Instead of Oblivion's route of collecting money once a week and performing a lackluster task, it was nice to actually get to go out on these simple assassination contracts and feel a little immersed. To me, it's always a bummer when an entire storyline ends and the world goes on as if nothing even happened. It's good that there are always quests to embark on and extra gold to collect. The last thing I'll mention is that I enjoyed all of the nods to Oblivion that were present in this faction. If anything, it was almost becoming too much, and any more references were probably going to drive me crazy. There was the Udafricht, Lucien Lachance. Throwing his ghost in, by the way, was an amazing detail, especially considering he had such a tragic end in Oblivion. Lachance's dialogue mentioning the Purification, the Blade of Woe, Shadowmere, mentions of the Shadenhall Hall, the Purification through Cicero's perspective, Cicero's diary entry alluding to the Adoring Fan and the Grand Champion. I'm probably missing some more, but those are the ones that come to mind right now. Again, like mentioned before, if I took part in those events, I have a vested interest in seeing how they played out or where things have gone since then. Well, that wraps up how I feel about this questline. I have overwhelmingly positive things to say about it. I'd probably give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Based on what? I don't know, but it feels like an appropriate rating. It's not perfect, but it's exceptional. In my eyes, it did a lot of things right and not a lot of things wrong. I'd love to know your opinion on the Dark Brotherhood storyline down below, and until next time, keep on adventuring.